Hoping you're having a wonderful weekend. We welcome you into Moral Side of the News. Once again, I'm John Blim with the WHAS Crusade for Children. With me, as always, is a distinguished panel today. Reverend Harriett Akins-Banman, Centenary United Methodist Church, New Albany. Reverend Daniel Corrie Shull, Burnett Avenue Baptist Church. Rabbi Stan Miles, Louisville Melton School. And Father Tony Smith, Archdiocese of Louisville. We welcome to you, panel. Facing prison time and dire personal consequences for storming the U.S. Capitol, some January 6th defendants are trying to profit from their participation in that deadly riot. Some have authored books, set up crowdfunding for their defense, or sold video of the event. Meanwhile, authorities have stepped in, seizing tens of thousands of dollars from some, and the Justice Department's lawyers wrote about one of the rioters, saying he should not be able to capitalize on his participation in the breach in this way. So we turn to our panel on Moral Side of News. Let's hear your thoughts about the January 6th rioters.
I think it's kind of ludicrous that it's generating money. The only thing that I could perhaps accept is the crowdsourcing for their legal funds, perhaps, but to make money on a riot, on a takeover of our nation's capital, and what happened inside that building, and the people who were hurt, and the building that was trashed, and putting our elected representatives in definitive harm's way, including the person who was then vice president of the United States, threatening a vice president with death. I'm sorry, there's no reward here. I see no reward whatsoever.
But should we back up to look at the precedent that has been set by others who have committed crimes, heinous crimes, behind bars perhaps, who make a living off movie rights and books and interviews? How do we pull back that Pandora's box? Because is it morally right to have any of that out there, where a criminal who has gone through the judicial system and been proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, is that fair to have out there? What does that say about our culture as well?
Yeah, I think this is revelatory about the state of American citizens and the way that white nationalism has really taken a foothold and is even being commodified now in ways that belie a disdain for democracy, and that shed light on the need for, I think, very stiff penalties for these actions that borderline on treason. It's sad, it's unfortunate, it is unthinkable that these things would be allowable and that there would even be any discussion about their permissibleness. But here we are. Liz Cheney just the other day lost her election by a huge margin, backed by Trump and his minions. And she lost her seat after all of those years because she actually stood up for democracy, which makes a really grand statement on the danger that our body politic is currently in. And I think that the attempt to capitalize on one's involvement in the January 6th riots proves again what a terrible state our democracy is in.
My comments, I would make a quick comment. First off, there's a danger in generalizations that everyone involved in this attack upon the Capitol is doing all this stuff. I would presume the percentage is very low, but it's not just there either. Look at, remember the whole thing of Alex Jones and the Sandy Hook parents that lawsuit against him. Here was someone who made, my understanding is his value, his net worth is between $1.5 to $2.5 million because of all this garbage that he's put out on the airways. Just lost, what is it, $50 million penalty? And my understanding is he's called for help and he's already gotten $45 million in to help him out of the $50 million. And so it's prevalent. I would say it just, in my mindset as a minister, saying it shows the sinfulness of human nature again, not just in our own country, whatever. But it reminds me, in Luke's gospel, we use a little Christian scriptures where Jesus is talking about the children of the world being prudent in a sense of making friends. This is the servant being thrown out. The boss says, you've been a bad servant, and he calls his friends in and cuts back on all the stuff that his friends owe the master in order for him to be received well in their homes. Even the Lord Jesus said, they show more prudence in this world than do the children of light. But from my understanding, they're not doing anything illegal normally. I mean, it depends upon the statute and the law, whether it's state or federal. But morally, is it morally wrong? I would say it's morally improper. But I know of no moral statute that would be in violation of such, except I would say stupidity. But I'd say it's more, in my mindset, it's more goes against the common sensibility that there's something not quite right with what they're doing. And if the law allows for the government, federal, state, or whatever, there's some recompense on this, I would say, I would like to include in that what we're talking about there. Is maybe some of the police officers, the responders who were killed, their families, whatever, they might be able to seek some recompense because of the action. But it just shows, Corrie, I agree with you in the sense of it, it just shows the stupidity of humanity at times. But again, it's not, I don't think January the 6th routine is just an example. It's not just the ultimate of what's happening. We see it everywhere we look. Harriett, as you were saying, people in jail, they make a lot of money because of keying on that. Is that illegal? Is it immoral? I think it's kind of, again, extremely insensitive, but insensitivity is not the grounds for a right and wrong action.
Al Capone said he'd be out of business if people didn't want what he had, right? So at some level, our human nature wants that stuff, that story, that sensationalism, to feed a need, and that's always worth considering, right?
Indeed, I always say that we will have drug abuse, prostitution, whatever whatever ills of society you want to acknowledge, racism, as long as we want it. And when the moment comes we do not want it anymore as a species, that goes away. But that's a generalization statement, I understand. But it's not too simplistic, I think, if you look at human nature and the scriptures, etc. But anyway, that's just my thoughts.
So disgusting how easily entire populations are manipulated to do things that individually I think that people would think are horrible. But with the herd mentality and the crowd mentality, they just go berserk. And I think this whole thing is from being manipulated from outside our country. And that really terrifies me. I think we're being manipulated by forces that bode ill for the entire United States of America and our republic.
All right, panel, we'll move on to our second topic on our program, Moral Side of the News, and thank you for watching and listening. Since former President Trump's Florida estate was raided last week by the FBI, across the internet, researchers and experts on extremism have seen a significant spike in violence and hateful rhetoric directed toward the federal government and the FBI in specific. Online and in real life, animosity toward the feds is at a level not seen in decades, several experts told USA Today. Locally
Now, could I
able.
correct you for just a second?
Yes.
Before the federal agents came to Mar-a-Lago, they made an appointment with the folks at Mar-a-Lago that we're coming in and we're looking for thus and such things. And so, and the people at Mar-a-Lago at that point said, fine, come. When you make an appointment, it's not a raid, it's an appointment. The idea that this was a raid on Mar-a-Lago, it's not what it was.
So based upon what you said, people are interpreting it as a raid. What do you think can be done about these threats from people who think the FBI, federal government, is out of line?
I think that our federal workers deserve to be protected. And certainly their families deserve to be protected. I hear that not only have the agents been threatened, but their spouses and children likewise have been threatened and placed in harm's way. That's reprehensible.
As well as the fallout of important work these agents are doing for the whole of us, getting sidetracked, as the reading we were given to do, as the article stated, that it's pulling energy and a focus away from the work in the world that they're meant to be doing because of this. And it just, and perhaps this is too simplistic again, but again, it looks like the mentality of bullying. You have hurt us and we will respond with that which we know best, which is violence. And it is alarming and frightening.
Common understanding that in general, we'd like to see order in society and law enforcement. In fact, both political parties, but especially the Republican Party in the past, has touted itself as the law and order type party. We all like to see that until it impacts our lives, and then the order and the enforcement is questioned. And therefore, we have these individuals who would say, well, what Stan is saying there, is that one interpretation, maybe other interpretation, I don't know. But certainly there is this negativity out there about the FBI and other law enforcement. But my understanding is, Stan, to the point, if you threaten someone, now their family's a different matter perhaps, but if you threaten especially on the federal level, you are hindering law enforcement, and that is a felony, as I understand. So that by law, there's statutes already that say that they can be controlled in a certain sense. But how can you put that many people in jail? I don't know. But it's true. We are going down a road which is difficult to watch, and what we're going to do about it, involves law enforcement. And that's the key of, look at the whole thing of FBI history in the past and some of the tragedies that were involved with that. So, but I agree with you. There should be protected, and the law should be enforced if someone does, like the fellow up in Cincinnati or Indianapolis or whatever it was, and then others who've threatened actual bodily harm with weapons, etc. They should be prosecuted to the fullest of the law.
And if that is a truism, then how much the more so if there is an individual or individuals recorded either on video or tape screaming, "Hang the Vice President of the United States." There you go. That has to be a punishable crime.
I think it's not just, I know there's even on local levels with police forces and all that good stuff, there's lots of problems with that, lots of faults. But at the same time, there are, I think, a good number of the folks I know of who are out there trying to do the best they can as they understand society, whatever now, and they should be defended as well, especially if someone goes after their families. So it should not just be on the federal level, state level, but even the local level. So.
All right, very good panel. I want to follow up on another question that on our first topic, we talked about people making money, profiting or attempting to profit from the January 6th riot. Thinking about the government's involvement now, this reaction to the FBI, does the government have a right to pursue those funds and the profit people are making on those January 6th?
Of course they do.
As long as the law allows it. That's what I'm with you, Corey. I think they should every 100% of it, but that's not the law as I understand it. So.
All right, let's move on to our third topic here on Moral Side of the News. We're about a little over halfway through, so thank you for joining and listening to this program and watching. We don't require any money up front to start the services. We'll do what we have to do to make it work. Whatever it takes for that family to have a service that they want. Those are the words of Anthony Oxendine, owner of Spring Valley Funeral Homes in Louisville and New Albany. He's taken on the task of burying many of the city's victims of gun violence, estimating he's performed at least 100 funerals in the past year. Said one grieving mother, "What he's doing means everything to me." So to our panel on Moral Side of the News, let's hear your thoughts about this act of kindness and what it means to the community.
I don't think that we applaud our funeral directors and morticians enough. They give dignity to those who have died and aid grieving families in their mourning rituals. So many of the funeral firms in our city and probably across the nation give more than we know to their communities, and it goes unseen. It goes unseen. The funeral services that they write off, the ways that they sharply discount their services, the gentleness and the quiet dignity that they render in helping families make very, very difficult and delicate decisions. We owe them a debt of gratitude, and that gentleman is one, I'm sure, among many others who do such sacred work.
Share with you on that 100%. Again, it reminds me of going to the Christian scriptures again of Luke and the Good Samaritan parable, in a sense. Here's an individual, from what's reported, who is enlivening or living that great command, love God, love neighbor, loving the charity, and sacrificing for the common good as well as for just his own upbringing and his own history. But I agree with you. I know a number of individuals who direct funeral homes and whatever, not just the large chains, but locals who do, as you say, Corey, write off a lot, and they do a good charitable work in what they're doing. And so we should applaud them. Yes, indeed.
I agree totally. And it's good to hear about such selfless individuals in light of the publicity about the funeral home across the river.
Yeah.
And that was really an exception to a rule.
I think so too.
So callings come in many ways. Would you all say that this is definitely a calling and a call that was answered?
That's what I found so moving about his story, is that he sensed it as a call, and was in another location and saw that opportunity. And it's one thing to sense a call and to feel a call, or to have others see that call bubbling up within you, but then to act on it with belief that this is the thing to do. This is the work in the world I'm called to do. And it's what hard work, because as ministers, we come in and we do our piece. But I think that the funeral director and staff are left to be with the family when they are in the dire trenches. And I'm grateful for that compassionate work that they offer. That's part of that call.
That a number of them, that they are the first ministers that are to affect families who have such a tragedy. And I would, if I may, just for a second, I would like to applaud his upbringing too, in a sense, his family. Here's an individual who models for what good formation in life can produce. And hopefully his own life will produce more others. But I would applaud his grandmother he talked about. That just shows, that as we say, the faith in the one God and the love of neighbor is very much alive. I'm sorry, Stan.
No. Walking the walk and talking the talk, but really, really, really walking the walk.
Right.
The lives of people in the funeral industry is, let's face it, our lives have stress. Their lives are relentless, continuous stress. They do not approach any situation that isn't stressful. And
wouldn't it be lovely if the money that the federal government is going after with the naughty people from January 6th could go to support the good work in communities that are done for those who are in these dire straits, these companies and local stores and men and women that are offering services, maybe much to their financial loss, to make a community stronger and healing available to happen.
Right.
I'm reminded of an episode of this program a little while ago where we talked about Elon Musk buying Twitter for $44 billion. And just here in Louisville, the homeless shelter was set up for $1 million to help homeless people. Wouldn't it be great if those numbers were flipped and the good it would have done? And I just want to hear your thoughts on that. Exactly. Is there a way to encourage that, or what can be done about that?
when people hear of goodness, they want to emulate the goodness. And one good act is like a snowball going down a hill. It has the potential to become larger and larger, many more good acts, just because of that singular act of love and kindness.
We see that here in Kentucky with a few months ago with the hurricanes in the west, or tornadoes in the western part of the state, and then just recently the flooding. Look at, I don't know about your own selves, but the people have risen up and really are going out of their way to help these people who have nothing left. Well, we have a lot of people here in our own community who have nothing left, in a sense. If we could get that same spirit, as you say, Stan, to be acknowledged and to be looked for, in a sense, and of course created, and also in how do you want to say, aided in its development among our local folks. I mean, I think we could, not that we do billions of dollars, but we could certainly do a lot more than $1 million. So
what if the Elon Musks and the other millionaires that had the tax laws changed on them, so that when they made a certain amount, a percentage of that had to go back into the good of the country or community or to feed people? Yes, this is the Pollyanna world in which I live.
All right, panel.
That could
Finally,
be great, Harriet, but who decides what is for the good of the people? That could be a dilemma unto itself.
well, finally, panel, some sad news to share on this edition of Moral Side of the News. The Reverend Dr. Kathy Goodwin, a former panelist on this program and member of the Crusade for Children Advisory Panel, passed away this week. Some of you may remember her. She was on this program in the early 2000s. May she rest in peace. Panel, she was just 64 years old. Our thoughts are with her and her family.
I met Kathy when I was a seminarian at Louisville Presbyterian Theological Seminary. I preached when she was the pastor at Cope Memorial United Methodist Church, and I've been the recipient of her kindness and her generous wisdom. And I'm so sorry to know of her passing, but she will always live as one of the ministerial guides that has blessed my journey as a budding and a growing minister. God bless the memory of Reverend Kathy Goodwin.
Thank you. An excellent way to end our program, Moral Side of the News, this week. Thank you to Reverend Daniel Corrie Shull, Reverend Harriett Akins-Banman, Rabbi Stan Miles, and Father Tony Smith. Thanks, panel. If you'd like to catch this program again or any episode from the past year, just go to YouTube and search for Moral Side of the News. Until next week, thank you, panel, and have a great week. We appreciate your time. Moral Side of the News is now in its 70th year, making it one of America's longest-running public affairs programs. Thank you for making it part of your weekend. Thank you for making the 69th annual WHAS Crusade for Children a big success just a few months ago. There's still time to get involved. You can donate anytime. It's always Crusade season. Just send your check or donation to 520 West Chestnut Street, Louisville, Kentucky 40202. That's 520 West Chestnut Street, Louisville, Kentucky 40202. Or go online and make a secure donation at whascrusade.org and see all the many new ways you can make a donation to help change a child's life.
We had so much fun. Well, today I am back. You got out of bed. And see what happens. Hold it still here and, oh!
So this is the Dreams with Wings camp. We have two camps. One that serves individuals with Down syndrome and another that serves people on the autism spectrum.
Now, how many people here have actually seen the Ohio River?
Anybody?
I work at Louisville Water, and my job at Louisville Water is the best.
We had the Louisville Water Company and Tyler McRae, a very talented instructor, teach us about filtration and the importance that that plays in keeping us healthy and in the water that we drink.
That is the name of the filter that we use. Is it coming out faster than the sponges or a little slower? There we go. And then now I'm gonna pour. Ready? Here we go.
Good job, everybody. Good job.
Let's see what happens.
This is our 21st year, so we're really excited to be able to keep bringing it back and delivering a summer to remember every single time. Dreams with Wings is so many things. We are a local nonprofit that serves children, teens, and young adults from ages 7 to 87.
Oh, our three closest scientists have all said yes for the sponge.
It's really everything we can possibly do to spark creativity, physical activity, and social emotional learning.
Heather, are we ready for me to turn back around? Okay.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah!
All right, here we go. Ladies, let me see. Oh, yes.
We're extremely grateful because we wouldn't be able to do it without the crusade. Without the generous gifts of all the donors and without the crusade, we wouldn't be able to make this camp everything that it needs to be and that these campers deserve to have every single summer.